Welcome, welcome everyone to our live stream today. Our first live of the year. I'm just waiting for Henderson to join us. Hey Henderson, welcome.
Thank you very much, Professor Flavio. Hello to everyone. It's already evening. Today here in São Paulo, we have a special afternoon, right, Flavio? Today is the anniversary of the city that welcomed us so well and allowed us to experience great emotions, great achievements, and great challenges. The city of São Paulo, with its 400 plus years. I forgot the exact number, but I know it's a lot.
467, if I'm not mistaken, right?
467. And so for two immigrants, you from Passos, me from Taubaté, it's a great joy to be able to celebrate this date with the people of São Paulo. Flavio, how are you? It's great to see you again. Great to see you doing well in the middle of a pandemic.
Well, it's a great honor to be able to start another year doing a live stream with you once again. I disabled the comments because we have our program schedule, but I open them up for questions at the end, okay? And it is a great honor. I am still, well, on vacation, in quotes, right? But I'm still working, producing, and thank God everything is fine, right? As much as possible within this challenge we're facing with the pandemic, the biggest challenge imposed on our generation. I also want to greet everyone and echo Henderson's words, right? This city of São Paulo, as its anniversary today, right? We chose this date that is so emblematic for us, right? Henderson from Tauba, Texas, the famous Tauba, Texas.
Taubaté, the city of Monteiro Lobato Mazzarupi, Moreira Alves, and the pregnant woman of Taubaté, which is the greatest cultural expression of recent times from there. And you're from Passos, right? In Minas Gerais?
Passos, home of Celton Mello and Danton Mello, right? Who are two great actors. We also have gospel singers who are well known. Regis Denise, who is my father's cousin, right? Theodore Roberto is another somewhat famous singer too, right? And the country singer Juliano Cesar, who also passed away recently, was from Passos.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Henderson, we have some news for the end of the broadcast today, which is a promotion we're launching for the books, right? So, I ask everyone to stay until the end because I'll also be posting about it here on my profile later. And once again, it is a great pleasure to be able to talk a little with you about the challenges of private law in this year of 2021.
Exactly. For those following us, Professor Flavio says he is on vacation, but it is more or less just from part of the jobs he holds, of the positions he has. For those who don't know the market, the publishing world, right, the world behind the books, this is the busiest time of year we have in the publishing market. Starts back in October. So Professor Flavio and I have constant and intense interaction from October onwards because that is when we are finalizing the updates, and it is the moment, curiously, when private law explodes with news, right? For some years now, this has been happening. From October to January, countless innovations, changes in case law relevant to you, to your practical activity or studies arise in this period. So I don't give Professor Flavio any rest during this period. He even gets tired from how much we talk every single day. Flavio, I wanted to start. We have had, right, intense, innovative activity in private law in recent months. I say this because I saw the effort you put into including this in all the works, right, in the collection, in the civil law handbook, and the consumer law handbook. I wanted to start by talking about the legislative innovations we had from 2020 leading into 2021 that our readers need to know about, need to be aware of. Which ones would you highlight?
Well, I think the main impacts and the main challenges of private law in 2021 continue to be those related to the pandemic, right? I, who live private law in my day-to-day life, I see how these repercussions So we have been talking a lot about contractual revision lately, right? Revision of lease agreements, revision of lease agreements in shopping malls. I will list here a few of the demands that have reached me, right? revision of energy purchase contracts, for example, right? This has been happening a lot. And all of this has an impact of the crisis. In succession law as well, people are looking to do planning because death is lurking, right? Just today, I assisted a daughter concerned about doing the succession planning for her mother and stepfather, and even a will for the recognition of socio-affective parenthood, right? And we have, in this context at least, everything that has reached me in my practical activity lately concerns the pandemic. I'm not sure if it's because it's a topic I've been quite concerned about, but I specialized in it, went to study some works on the pandemic, to study and understand the phenomenon a bit. Always knowing that the pandemic has a huge impact on private law. But I continue to say that the challenges concern the legal effects of the pandemic. And then we have Law 14.10 of 2020, which created the Emergency Legal Regime in Private Law, the RJ. I had the honor of participating in this project under the leadership of Professor Otavio Luis Rodriguez and Professor Rodrigo Xavier Leonardo. However, the effects of this law only lasted until October 30th. And now, in January, we don't really know what will happen with the effects of the pandemic, or if it would be the case to reactivate this law or not. So I start by highlighting this regulation. We also had regulations dealing with assemblies of legal entities, and meetings held remotely. We also had the law regarding air transport, Law 14.0, the law dealing with the cultural sector, and also the tourism sector, right? And I won't call it a law. We have the provision, it's not a law, it's an administrative rule, provision 100 of the CNJ from May 2020, which enables public deeds to be issued through the e-notary system, digitally, right? And so that's just from the legislative point of view, right? Then we have many court rulings. Rulings on the pandemic, rulings on these effects I mentioned, rulings on custody, rulings on the cutoff of essential services, right? And so I feel that besides that, the rulings on the pandemic and the rulings on civil law as a whole, right, are also emerging day by day, right? So this was a point we discussed, which is why we even changed the structure of our books, because after all, private law went through a shock, a big impact, which was the pandemic. There's no point in denying it for those of us who work in private law. There's just no way, right? I only deal with legal issues related to the pandemic. People are trying to plan their lives, rethink their lives, right? Moving to a new city, trying to protect the elderly, carrying out planning, worrying about their children, right? Many people resetting the lives they had, starting from scratch, right? So there's no denying it is there. In terms of law, for those of us who live the daily reality of private law, and I say this based on my consultations, legal opinions, my advocacy, and also the arbitrations I work on, the topics all relate to the pandemic, right? Like that.
I think that in the previous conversation we had about private law and the pandemic, we even debated this, that all legal relationships, whether contractual, affective, or non-contractual, would be revisited because the pandemic impacted these relationships in some way, right? In some way, all our relationships were impacted. This represents both an opportunity for those who practice law, those who are specializing in private law. There is a great opportunity because it's impossible for anyone to say they have nothing to review or no questions to ask. How many times must you have heard the question, listen, do I have to keep paying for the gym if I'm not going? Do I have to keep paying for school if I'm not going? So we have all heard questions of this nature. So all relationships needed to be revisited and, once again, rebalanced. And besides that, for those who are studying, undergraduates or postgraduates, you need to stay updated because the way we understand things has changed. You and Professor Simao have been calling it Reality A, the pre-pandemic era, which was how we consolidated doctrine, private legal science, and everything else. It has changed completely, hasn't it? Now, Reality B, we are creating it right now. I think this edition of yours captures a lot of that. You'll have the 2021 edition in your hands, and I even recommend reading the presentation note that Professor Flavio wrote for the new edition of the Civil Law Manual. It's even available on Geouridico. If you go there, read that note. It's a note that touched all of us on the editorial team. It was passed from one to another because it was a technical note explaining the updates, but also a personal aspect of the professor's experience with the pandemic, right? So,
my relationship with the disease, right?
exactly, right?
And I don't know if I think you must have read Camus, The Plague. And he reports at the beginning how there is a skepticism, which is something that takes place in the 40s, the skepticism, and people thinking it was a crisis that would last a short time because people wanted to go back to their previous routines, right? There's even a passage where he highlights the issue of lovers, how they, and back then there was no technology, how they were truly disturbed, right? That's right at the beginning of the pandemic. And so we thought it was a 3-month crisis, then 6 months, then the turn of the year. Brazilians have this thing out, the year turns. We will really solve the problem. And we are seeing that it's not. And the marks for the law, for various legal issues, right? I was watching our events in Lisbon the day before yesterday, which we always do in person there at the Private Law Research Center, organized by Professor Araujo, Professor Simao, Professor Oxandro, Professor Lupion, Santolin, among other colleagues. And it was a very interesting week called Friday, right? It was the closing civil law week. And then at the very end, a speech by Justice Jones Figueiredo Alves, a speech saying that he hoped there would be greater solidarity, right? That the pandemic would bring a more solidary private law, right? And another speech by Professor Zé Fernando Simão, to whom I align myself. I don't know, I think we have a spiritual relationship of thought, very close in some things. Of course, we also have divergences, many even. Actually, more divergences saying the opposite, which is that he believed that in fact we were going to live more isolation, more individualism, more selfishness, something even going back there to the medieval era, right? And even he and I have this point, sometimes we exaggerate a bit, in the lack of optimism, right? Optimism we end up having as a matter of resilience, even to survive. But this is the challenge. Will civil law go down a path of greater solidarity, or will it go down a more selfish path, right? I have seen, for me, I think Henderson also thinks like this, that it's not the law. People are selfish, right? So people are thinking about themselves, about immediate pleasures, remembering the plague, right? The book. So this is also an enigma, right, as to where private law is going. At this moment, I think Simão is more right than Justice Jones. I wish Justice Jones were right.
That there is a lack of solidarity in people.
Let me even highlight a topic, Rennerson, before I change my mind, which I was going to mention, something we are already debating. And we even talked about it last week. Pablo Listoso and I, we did a recording for the STJ, for TV STJ, and also we did an audio recording, right, that the STJ ended up linking and broadcasting, where we are talking about the loss of chance theory, right? We're talking about the loss of a chance of cure, right? Imagine us debating this issue in a few years. It's on that STJ podcast, Entender Direito, the loss of a chance of cure, because we don't know everything that is being done, what's recommended, what's right, what's wrong, right? We don't know. There is a great deal of confusion in the medical field regarding this. Imagine the legal discussions in a while because of this issue of loss of a chance of cure. This will totally change the course of private law and civil liability for a long time.
I have no doubt about that, Flavia. There's even a topic I was going to propose for us to ponder here, which is precisely some points we will have to discuss regarding civil liability. For example, the state's liability for the insufficiency in fighting the pandemic. Let's move away from the context we talked about here, celebrating the city of São Paulo and so on. Let's think, for example, of cities that are running out of oxygen, for instance. And there are reports showing, right, that there was a certain negligence on the part of the public authority. I'm not mentioning who, but there were those who didn't act when they should have acted. This will generate civil liability for the state. And considering the volume of deaths that are sadly happening, one might even wonder if at some point they won't talk about some restriction regarding the quo reserve of the possible for the state's civil liability, for example, right? Because
there was even a provisional measure that had been issued along these lines to exclude the liability of public agents, right? A huge outcry, various discussions about it. The problem with state liability, with all due respect, is that the way it is constructed, theoretically, it ends up being designed so that often the state is not held liable and the agents aren't held liable either, right? And it often happens that state liability ends up being shifted to private entities, right? Public security, for example, we have several debates. Like robberies, for example, in a private setting, which should be the state's responsibility and ended up being shifted to the private sphere. What I have doubts about and have been debating a lot with my colleagues, right? And I have people whom I have the honor of calling friends and co-authors. I highlight, for example, those who participate with me in the commented civil code, which, by the way, is coming out now in February, too. Professor Giselda, Ironica, several people I work with. What I've been debating with them is whether civil liability will be enough, right? This imputation of the duty to indemnify, really, whether it will be enough to solve the problems. At the beginning of the pandemic, we talked a lot about the duty to negotiate, the duty to renegotiate conciliation, mediation, right? Now we don't talk about it quite as much because it seems the parties really don't want negotiate or mediate except for a few exceptions. The parties want judicial decisions to say who is in the right, right? So that is the topic I have doubts about. By the way, just a note, right? We have an inflation rate that created an absurd correction index for rents, right? A correction of the rent index, an absurd correction, right? That is another topic. Look, the number of cases my colleagues have regarding index substitution of the correction index, that's a subject right now in January, right? I think that, and the issue of the increase in health insurance plans, right?
I have also been consulted about health insurance plan adjustments several times because it created a lot. Everyone was shocked when they received their new 2021 invoice, right? Right. And by the way, in that sense, your column, right? Column for the Brazilian Institute of Contract Law in Miguel Haas, one of the last columns of the year was by Professor Angelica Carlini, our friend.
It was the first of 2021.
The first of 2000, the first one. Her column was wonderful, precisely about health insurance plan contracts
and the topic. But her view is her view against revision, right?
True, right? Naturally, right? Her stance, even due to her own activism in the field. That's it. It would be interesting now for you to invite someone who can provide a counterpoint. Possibly, it will be important to also see the other side, right? From the point of view of the patient consumer, which has also become a major theme for those working in private law.
Without a doubt. Go ahead, Henderson.
No. Tell us what other point you were going to comment on.
No, I'll go back to the issue of rents. I know, for example, that in shopping malls, not only now with these new closures, with these possibilities of new lockdowns, not only the franchisees, but also the franchisers supporting the franchisees, are having trouble in malls because malls are being intransigent about adopting the IGPM, also charging for a 13th month of rent, and charging full amounts at a time when we might face closures again in many cities. Pasos, my hometown that we were talking about, is actually completely closed right now because the ICU at the Senecasa tripled its number of patients and reached capacity. If so, they had to close and restrict activities. So that is a problem. We are, like I said at the beginning, starting 2021 with a question mark, right? And truly, if the pandemic isn't resolved, if we have further closures, we are going to see a deepening of the crisis in the private law environment. This will generate all those repercussions that law 14.810 of 2020 also addresses, right? Statute of limitations, condominium issues, right? Inheritance law issues, civil imprisonment of the debtor in a closed regime, right? Actually, that's one point. The law lost its scope because it is a transitory law. Its application, right? But many rulings are still pointing out that as long as the effects of the pandemic exist, civil imprisonment for alimony debtors in a closed regime is not appropriate. This is a topic that will have to be clarified, right?
No, but it seems to me to be a very reasonable alternative, right? Not to move forward with civil imprisonment for alimony debtors because you are exposing their health and the consequence is much more harmful than what is being sought there, right? There is also an analysis to be made here regarding risks and consequences, right? It's pointless to have someone paying alimony who is ill and at risk of losing their life due to imprisonment. It seems to me that the jurisprudence should also move in this direction.
In the Court of Justice of São Paulo, I already showed this in the new editions. There are rulings in both directions, okay? In our court. So this is a topic that will have to be settled, right? So this is a topic that exists. It's not a topic that has changed. It's a topic that began at the start of the pandemic and persists to this day, right? This issue of rent adjustments ends up being a newer topic, right? And the health insurance plans. I mean, we are having distinct phases with distinct debates about the pandemic reality.
Flavio, do you think the wording of contracts will change?
I think the pandemic will end up being listed, and it's already happening, okay? In some contracts, for example, insurance, large insurance, construction contracts, right? I think people didn't consider expressly including a pandemic, listing a pandemic as force majeure, right? And I think that will happen. I'll give you an example. Article 625 of the Civil Code deals with construction contracts. It provides, I taught this class a short while ago, that force majeure is a reason to suspend work. Perhaps construction contracts will list force majeure as a pandemic because we had another recent problem, which was a shortage of construction materials.
By shortages, a series of things, right?
All of this that we're talking about, all these examples, up until 2019, we didn't debate them with the depth we're debating now, right? In fact, we didn't even debate many of these subjects, right?
All of this is very new, mostly because it was a distant reality, right? If we think about it, Brazil has some environmental disasters every now and then in the sense of flooding, water shortages, things of that nature, right? But one doesn't have, for example, earthquakes, hurricanes, active volcanoes, and those things that would lead to examples, right? Sometimes you even see several professors using those as examples, but now we have a reality that isn't. We know exactly now what force majeure is, what it means to have no way, no means to execute a contract due to adverse factors which could not be foreseen, guarded against, prevented, avoided, or acted upon in any other way, right?
I was consulted, and I'm using the example of a construction contract, not specifically a large project that was delayed due to a lack of materials and also the impossibility of obtaining due to restrictions I cannot mention here, the labor force in states other than São Paulo. So, I mean, when calculating contractual risk and risk allocation, whoever drafts a contract in the future will think about a pandemic, right? If only because it's not about being pessimistic. You study this more than I do, and you know that there are possibilities for other pandemics in Brazil and around the world, right? Right?
It's globally. The prediction now is that with the size of the population we have, the interaction we have between communities, and the most diverse environmental interactions combined with environmental devastation, we will have other infectious diseases occurring, especially those of a viral nature. So it is predicted that throughout this century, we will relive this situation a few times until at some point we manage to develop enough technology, or rather biotechnology, to be able to prevent pandemics and this whole situation. So it's tough, but that's how it is. Bill Gates predicted it. I was reading a bioethics book from 2012 the other day. A North American professor, a bioethicist, not a futurist, nothing of the sort, just a bioethics researcher. And he had a chapter where he talked about bioethics and pandemics. Well, I even went to check the date, right, when it was from 2012. And he was able to foresee the following: there will be a lack of reliable information, a lack of adoption or adherence to the guidelines provided by health authorities. There will be questioning of international health authorities, as happened with the WHO. There will be miraculous solutions. And the big problem will be the allocation of scarce resources. So you see, it really seems like he was seeing 2020. He wrote this 8 years earlier, based on data analysis. So what is being said about infectious diseases is true. We need to be prepared. Exactly.
They are bound to happen again. Well, Rederson, what promotion do we have for our readers?
We have a promotion here. Flavio, for those listening to us, a 24-hour discount coupon for 30% off Professor Flavio Tartucci's works, including the Civil Law Collection and the single-volume Civil Law Handbook. Look, it's not just because I'm Professor Flavio's editor, and I'll even declare a conflict of interest right now, the whole deal, but I am a reader before being an editor. I am a reader. I entered the publishing market because I was passionate about books. I loved reading, and I spent my time reading. I am Professor Flavio's first reader, you know? I would tell you that because, first of all, reading, and I need to tell you all that the 2021 edition is particularly fantastic. And not just because it brings all the updating work that Professor Flavio always does right up to the last second before going to the press. I can testify to this. We are including jurisprudence, things that just came out, some new position, some bulletin released by the Supreme Court or the Superior Court. There is always an update until the very last moment before we go to print. But this edition has a special concern for the reality that is now established due to the pandemic and the need to revisit all the relationships we as people maintain with other people, with companies, and so on. So all private relationships are being revisited or are subject to being revisited, and the 2021 editions have that concern. So I think, and as we have already mentioned, this will be something that occurs with some frequency over the coming decades, right? God willing, not as much as has been predicted, but it is something that those in the legal field, no matter what area of law or what sector you work in, whether you are a lawyer on one side or the other, or in the public sector, in the many public career paths. In any case, at this moment, we are all students of a new reality, of new content, and of new challenges. And as the slogan we came up with for Professor Flavio's work says, they communicate in the language of our time. And the language of our time, the word of the year is pandemic.
Of the years, right? Year 2 of the pandemic. I think it continues. Now we start fighting with vaccines, right? And then there's a new strain counter-attacking. We have to figure out whether to charge for it or not. Science never stops in its struggle, right? And we always have to believe in science, just as we believe in the science of law. We should believe in the others too. I think Henderson froze. Let me take advantage while he's coming back and just add, oh, he's back, great, that the work doesn't become outdated because we have virtual classrooms. Every book has access, and I always try to produce new content throughout the year as things come out. So, for example, after the new editions that we had already sent out, a Supreme Court decision was published regarding land subdivision, right? Gated communities, which, by the way, I have the honor of being cited in reporting Justice's vote, despite agreeing with the dissenting votes, but we have already recorded it. That lecture, we have already recorded it. It will be in the virtual classroom, right? With me explaining what this Supreme Court decision is, right? And now there is the law for the Minha Casa Minha Vida program, No Casa Verde Amarela, which will come out the day after tomorrow. Wednesday, in my Miguel Has Families column, in my Miguel Has Families column, where I already comment on the new law, and show that there is nothing new in it, because everything was already in the Minha Casa, Minha Vida law, and the provision, which is the current Article 14. I went to do some research, and there are already 4 courts. The current Article 14 is the former Article 35A of the Minha Casa, Minha Vida law. There are already 4 courts that have recognized the unconstitutionality of the rule that provides for registering assets acquired in the woman's name, understanding that there would be unconstitutionality, which is a really difficult topic, right? So the work doesn't become outdated. I always try to update it. And now we record remotely, right? We set up a system where I record remotely with the GEM group team. I've already recorded 4 or 5 lectures from wherever I am, so the work never becomes outdated, right? So we go right up to the last moment before it goes to the printer, but if anything eventually comes out in the meantime, we put an article or one of my lectures there explaining the content.
Yeah, that was a very successful innovation in Professor Flavio's works, right? Right. One thing we feel is that the law is alive, and we needed technology that could keep up with this experience, this life, this daily creation and innovation in law, right? Civil law is exactly that. Human life is rich and constantly changing all the time as well. Civil law reflects this. We thought of and created Professor Flavio Tartas' classroom for this very reason, which is precisely to keep his works and all innovations in civil law up to date. He puts material there, writes, posts his own, and guest articles, adds videos and classes, which is a way to keep the book alive for you.
That's right. Hey Henderson, we've talked enough about just the discount. I'm gonna open the floor for 3 questions here. Only the discount. When our live stream ends, I will take down the post I made about the live and put up a new post with the discount coupon. Remembering that on the Gen Group website, there's a 30% discount for 24 hours. After that, I'll take the post down as well. So I will open it up to the comments now so we can hear some questions from those who are watching us. The live stream will remain available at the end, and then I will put it on my YouTube page as well. Let's see here. Questions are now unlocked.
Let's go. Is there any question? Feel free to send it. Go ahead.
If any question appears,
Great, let's keep an eye on it here. We are seeing people responding. Thank you very much to everyone who has followed us until now.
Eduardo. There's a question here for Professor Eduardo Giral from Unifor. He is asking, I already had it set aside, if the decisions are highlighted. I didn't create a specific highlight for, let's say, the pandemic. That will be included because it is different from these works. That will be included as a pandemic item in our commented civil code by me, Shiber Simão, Mario Delgado, and Marco Aurelio Bezerra de Mello. Since that work is organized by article, we created a pandemic item in the doctrine and pandemic in the jurisprudence. Marcio Carvalho sent a question. This question always comes up. What is the difference between the single volume and the collection? Well, the single volume has 1,700 pages. The collection has 4,000, right? Of course, the collection delves deeper into the topics and covers some subjects that are not in the handbook. For example, proof in legal transactions couldn't be included in the handbook, partly because it's more of a civil procedure topic. It's in volume 1 of the collection, right? The lease law, Law 8245 and 91, is in volume 3. It's not in the handbook because I used the 2002 code as a base. Furthermore, the collection has questions at the end of each chapter and schematic summaries at the end of each chapter. The handbook is, well, it's a different work, right? It's a work that also has these summaries, but they are usually charts throughout the book, right? The handbook is not a summary of the collection. It has a different conception, right? The green and yellow law, the green and yellow program law, did it just change its name? I think it just changed its name. And, like, it's impressive, isn't it? Because a civilist is concerned with private law, with solving people's problems, right? Of course we have political preferences, but we aren't guided by that, right? And property is a subject that needs stability. We learn that, right? So it needs stability, dominion, right? These are generally stable relationships. Then every government wants to make its own program, changes the name, but in essence, it changes very little, right? They're asking if it was closed in December. The handbook was closed in December. The collection, some volumes, I think I was able to include some things in January, right?
Exactly.
Well, it's that thing, there's no such thing as closed, right? Right. There's no such thing as closed because there's a virtual classroom, so there's always material. For example, Law 1410 of 2020, the classes are already there. I recorded them last year, right? The 2019 edition didn't have the law. I recorded it last year, right? Right. So there's always something, there's no, I closed. There is no closing. That's it. Modesty aside, it was our creation, mine and Henderson's, right? Right? And then people copied it, right? I'm happy. I don't think so.
It means the idea was good. It means the idea was good. Innovation for the publishing market.
Flavia, I tell Enzo this. I tell this to Enzo, my son. He says, aren't you mad they copied you? No. Well, really, we proposed the idea and we change, right? Right? Sometimes I see someone I used to follow who did things following the same path as me. I'm flattered.
Flavio, there's a question here from Newton who asks, what is the greatest difficulty in writing a law book? And how long did it take you? I think it would be interesting for people to also hear the author side of it, right?
It's difficult, isn't it? Mine was, I'm a teacher first and foremost, a classroom teacher, right? I have always been a classroom teacher. And that is why the pandemic has had an absurd impact on me, right? Right. Yesterday I met, right here I am, that well-known psychologist. My sister was even the advisor to his son, Jaco. Jaco Pinheiro, I don't know if you know, he's famous, always on television. Well, I told him, look, Dr. Jaco, my life was taken away from me. The life I had in the classroom, at conferences, it's over. It was taken away. So to say, oh, it has no impact, my life is not, it's different. So what happened? I have always been a teacher who prepares for class. So I had a syllabus, a summary, a lesson plan, then it became a better summary, then it became a study guide. I remember it was a study guide from the postgraduate course at LFG. Then I kept improving it, and it became a bar exam prep book, the one with the yellow cover. Then it became a course, and then I wrote the textbook. Each law takes some time, each book takes some time. I wrote the textbook in 6 months in 2010. I almost died, had panic attacks. I ended up in the hospital 5 times in December 2010, right? And I almost died, right? Now I will say, it was a difficult moment in my life, but 2020 with COVID was worse, right? That's when I really almost died. So I didn't end up being hospitalized, but I suffered a bit. So each book has a time to be written. The civil liability book took me a year and a half to write, right? And it's a subject that I worked with a lot back in 2017, 2018. It's a big book too. So each book has a subject, each book has a history. I have now started writing one about COVID and private law. I don't know when it will be released, right? It depends on the transformations there. It's a little book I'm conceiving, telling a series of things and also personal reflections. I was going to do it quickly, Henderson, but now a bunch of things have come up to delay it.
Okay, look, it's raining into piggy banks, so in terms of opinion, consultation.
But I'll tell you one thing. I was saying that our life was difficult, but there were also several good things, right? I've been living closer to my family, my children, you know, participating in processes that I didn't participate in before. So there are things that I saw we lost, but things we gained as well. The Consumer Rights Manual is about to be released. I'm waiting for the feedback. And there are changes too, of course there are. And is there a cutoff for essential services during the pandemic or not, right? The over-indebtedness law hasn't come out yet, but if it does, we'll record it, right? And me too.
We waited a long time. We're anxious, aren't we? About when this will come out, but this is extremely important for us to include, right? But it ended up not coming out, so it's better.
It should come out this year. But it's already reflected there, right? The bill already includes those reflections. There's the review of contracts there, right? Also the review of consumer contracts, prescription law 14.010. Oh, the change to Article 8. Guys, there's no way it won't change. Every year it already changes a lot because we update it, right? And now with the pandemic, the law has changed, right? They're asking about technology contracts. Technology is a different problem, right? Because the pandemic made people even crazier, right? So it got worse. This polarity became even deeper. And what we're seeing is restriction, cancellation, total madness, right? That's a different problem, right?
That's another point to be discussed still, right? whether there is liability for unilateral account cancellation, all that stuff.
Yeah, it's impressive because, as I'm saying here, as a civil lawyer, and also because I have a social network with many people, I think my reader wants to read about civil law, right? About political issues, eventually, it's not that I'm abstaining there. I have contributions to make that are different, right? Which is contributing to a law, to a bill. This year, I believe I should contribute a lot if everything goes well, right? But sometimes I put a post there, for example. I posted an article by Sheer about Trump's account being blocked. My God, what a mess, huh? And then people start talking about political issues. And that wasn't even my opinion, you know?
No, you just shared the article. Spread Schreiber's text. Very good, by the way.
Exactly.
We have questions here. Samar, is the book on sale yet? Yes, it's already on sale on the Gen website and in some bookstores. There are people here asking about...
Oh, the detail, Henderson. And for the first time, we released it as an experiment. Hope it goes well. His ebook, I think, is only on Amazon, right? Or is it on Gen 2?
I think it's on Gen 2. I can even take a quick look. I have my laptop open.
So single volume in collection available for the first time as an ebook.
Yes, it's released now. We didn't release them before, but given the pandemic, we thought it would be relevant. And it's also on the G Web.
There's another question.
Delors is watching us. A big hug to Professor Luis Delors here.
A hug. Gabi Stalt, Professor, what is your take on contract revision at this moment in the pandemic? Does contract termination still prevail over revision? No, quite the contrary. And the pandemic, and I say this in several parts of the books, it reinforced revision and contract conservation. Because if we have termination of everything, we'll head to a generalized bankruptcy, and then things which are already bad, very bad, get terrible, right?
Social regression.
Fabio, I'm looking, no, it's not possible. Fabio asked, how does Article 71 stand with the pandemic since we're working from home and often the phone doesn't stop regarding collections? I don't think anything changed, Fabio. We already had, I didn't even reflect on that because I don't think there was any repercussion on that, if I'm not mistaken. It was already possible to have multiple domiciles, including the workplace, and it remains within that reality.
Fabio, there's a good question here about doctor civil liability from Lene Montero. What is your opinion on the civil liability of doctors who prescribe medication against COVID? I imagine she is referring to off-label use, right? The use of medications for compassionate use.
Yeah. Lady's my sister-in-law, right? Yeah, no, she's provoking me here. Oh, she's your sister-in-law, and she came in to provoke you. That Christmas/New Year's Eve discussion, you know? Getting back at you, huh? Well, I think that if science confirms what we have today, we will have physician accountability in the future, right? We will have physician accountability in the future. When I had COVID, my doctor, who is an excellent frontline doctor, only prescribed azithromycin because I had sinusitis in my nose. Then I asked, what about that other controversial medicine? He said, look, if the patient wants it, I'll prescribe it, but you have to come here to, my doctor said, man, this doctor of mine has been my doctor since my health scares in 2010, right? Even before that. Look, if the patient wants it, I'll prescribe it, but they have to come here to the office to get a heart exam. Every day or every 2 days to get an electrocardiogram to see if everything is okay, right? For people who are hospitalized, who are under care, who already have a doctor, who will do an ECG every day, it's fine to take it, right? It's fine to take it. Then it's easy, right? So let's wait and see, right? To see. There are doctors who say one thing and doctors who say another, right? But I personally think that if the science is confirmed, we will have civil liability imputed regarding this in the future. Bounty is asking about the consent of a co-owner in a lease agreement regarding a recent STJ decision. What is your opinion? I agree with the decision, partly because I'm even cited in the decision, so I totally agree with it. It's there, I posted it, right? I am cited alongside Pablo Stolzi and Pamplona, right? So I agree with the decision. Let me see if a message came in here. Lelian asked here how it stands. This is addressed in books. How does the civil liability of airlines stand regarding flight cancellations during the pandemic? Well, the law that covers this subject provides that airlines are not liable. In fact, it created a series of exclusions, right? Specific exclusions. That an airline blackout is now an exclusion. They put definitive rules in there, right? Definitive rules, in fact. So it excludes liability for the pandemic. They're asking there if the efficiency of the medicine or one of the medicines is proven. The question went by very fast, but I think it was hydroxychloroquine. Whether the doctor is liable then? Well, then no. But see how this topic is murky, right? This topic has to be remembered. It really has to be. In some of my live streams and so on, I even tried to explain it on my Instagram. Anyone interested in health and bioethics issues, follow me there. Let me put in a plug. Henderson_line first, okay? My area of research is health law and bioethics. There is an important point to emphasize here, which is that the use of these medications is compassionate use. So you have to look at each case. So if the doctor warned that it is compassionate and had the patient sign a free and informed consent form explaining, look, this is compassionate, there is no proof yet, there is no other alternative, etc. We have a different scenario than if they just said, here, take this because I'm telling you to, right? These are distinct scenarios that actually impact the legal advice given to health professionals on how to proceed when administering or dispensing medications, right? I can't say for sure right now if they are liable or not, but I'm speculating that they could be held liable in the future, right? And doctors have a horror of civil liability. Mention civil liability, and they go, civil liability. It's something they are very concerned about, right? And when I said that to a doctor friend of mine, he freaked out. Now they're asking, when is the commented civil code coming out? It comes out in February. We are delivering it on January 31st, right? I have already turned in my part. Tourism companies are also excluded. There is a specific law. You know, Fabio, one is 14.00, the other is 14.034. I don't remember off the top of my head right now. Tourism companies also have the possibility of paying a year later or issuing a refund.
Right. There is a question in the comment here. Look, since COVID wasn't taught in college, would it be an out for the middle class to argue that because it's something no one has experienced? We are all immature on this subject. Andy or Alice? That's more or less it, because the Code of Medical Ethics contains the obligation to stay updated. So, for example, many doctors practicing today, when they graduated, AIDS didn't exist. I mean, not that it didn't exist. They didn't study it, they didn't learn about AIDS, but they have an ethical duty to stay updated. So it's not a possible argument to use that it wasn't in their undergraduate studies. It would be the same as saying that a lawyer has no civil liability as a liberal professional for having provided the service incorrectly to their client because they didn't have that subject in college. It's a new law that came up. We also have a duty to keep ourselves updated.
Yeah, someone mentioned ivermectin, but I follow that infectious disease specialist who is studying at USP and is in France. It's Dr. Letitia. She is married to a lawyer. I would have to close this to see her profile. It's an Oriental surname. I follow her and I am an admirer of her. And she has already shown randomized studies and has made posts about scientific studies showing that ivermectin has no proof at the moment. Then, look, she posted the day before yesterday a new medication that seems to have a study in English saying it has an efficacy, a name so new that I didn't remember it.
I didn't memorize it yet either.
And then they took her off the air. She always spoke against it. They took her off the air. She posted again. They took it off the air again. Look how difficult this subject is. Now, all of this we will verify in the future. Gomez is there. Look, Professor Gomez can confirm how we are having this great debate. He works a lot in the real estate field, how we are having this great debate about leasing, right? About IGPM, right? I forgot her name, Letitia. I would have to close here to see.
There's a question from Gabriel here. What do you recommend, Flavio? That during the pandemic, without congresses and such, how to best follow legal updates?
Social media with moderation, because one of the great evils of the pandemic, which I've already read on several sites, including a German site, is doing the, what do you call that, scrolling up. People are getting sick from that. Scrolling, moving their finger, then losing focus.
The COVID. Instagram is limiting it, right? There comes a time when a window pops up like, you can no longer do this.
Yeah, but you don't have your Facebook. Yeah, then you have to see the social dilemma, right? The social dilemma anticipated what happened there in the United States on Wednesday, the first Wednesday of January. Exactly. It anticipated what happened there, right? I think some congresses, we did a virtual IBD Fund Congress last year. That was an advantage. Several conferences. For example, this week there are the Lisbon conferences from the CIDP, the Research Center for Private Law. All online, all free, right? Go to the CIDP at the University of Lisbon. There's a commercial law symposium this week. Symposium this morning, I didn't see it, but I'll watch it tomorrow, right? And the IBD fan is also holding several conferences. It's Leticia Cavano here, look. Cavano.
Daniel Dorado is also very good. Daniel Dorado.
Who is a doctor, Oh, sorry, he's a lawyer. He's the husband.
He's a doctor and a lawyer. He's both. He has a double background.
That's right. Yeah, so I am guided by them, right? Especially Leticia, who is over there in France studying. You see, I didn't know these people. Now I'm a fan of theirs, right? Each one. We study each one, see what people say, and believe, right? As for me, I'm not afraid of the harder path. I know it won't be easy. I know that people often choose someone because they give an opinion, because it's the easier path. But no pandemic has ever been easy. In all of them, the path was difficult. Very difficult, right? So I followed Dr. Leticia, and what she says, go ahead.
I was also going to recommend, Flavio, our Gen Juridico portal, right? The Gen Juridico, it's a content portal for the Gen Group, right? From our legal publishing house. And all our authors are invited to write there. There is a page there. Flavio updates it. There are many articles and a lot of quality free content. So whenever a debate comes up, there will always be someone there writing, commenting on that debate or the law or the jurisprudence or social fact. For example, regarding the legal regulation of the vaccine, there's a text of mine when no one's talking about vaccines. What are the legal effects of vaccination? I wrote a text to explain that there. It was cited in the Supreme Court in the decision that determined mandatory vaccination. So I recommend following it there.
That's not weak at all. You're not weak at all. Just one detail here. Henderson, also check out the IBDCTE, or Institute. We have Collins and McGaw-Huz, and we're going to hold the Brazilian Contract Law Congress online this year. It's already decided, right? They asked there, oh, will COVID be on the civil service exam? Ooh. It's all going to be about COVID. It's on the jurisprudence agenda, because it's on the... I've already started recording G7 classes. From the beginning, I start year 2 of the pandemic. What are the repercussions of this and that? And I'm just having some reflections because things keep evolving, and other discussions keep emerging too. The examiner will only ask about it. They want to see if you are up to date. This is on the jurisprudence agenda. Hey, Gomid, what did you point out there? Gomid mentioned something about contract review, I think. Let me check here in the inbox.
Oh, you mentioned the inbox. I'm looking at the answers here. Marcelo Coutinho, was the handbook enough for the public prosecutor and magistracy exam? Look, a survey came out saying that several of the newly approved candidates for the magistracy studied using the handbook, right? It is sufficient.
Oh, a question popped up there. I brought up the issue of medication liability. On this issue of medication, it's related. I think he will talk about the informed consent form, the clarification form. There is also a controversy if it totally excludes liability, Guilherme, since it is imposed. The contract is an adhesion contract. This story that it purely and simply excludes liability is not unanimous.
Even Professor Paula Mora, who is A researcher and professor of medical law and biolaw also has writings on this.
Andrea, for those who purchase these valuable works, will they have updates throughout the year? Yes, because there is the virtual classroom, we update everything that comes out during the year, right? And so there are updates in the virtual classroom. Professor Paula is there. Professor Paula, a pleasure. I missed what you said. Professor Paula, it's a pleasure to have you here. You are an expert on these topics, medical topics, medical topics. I hope we aren't saying too much nonsense here. But hey, Henderson, going back to this issue of medicine, of the challenges of the pandemic, you just need to read about previous pandemics. And we know that the path is not easy and behaviors keep repeating themselves, right?
Yes. Behaviors keep repeating themselves. The immediate pleasures, people who want immediate pleasures, political polarization, right? And civil law, solving people's problems, right? Which is our mission. Isn't it? Trying at least to solve. Trying to solve for many centuries.
Civil lawyers have existed long before. I say this a lot, people. Some get really pissed off, but it's the truth. But it's the truth. Civil law experts have existed long before many others who come, you see, and disappear, right? So, and the civilists have been there for 2,000 years, solving problems, right? Some are even reincarnations with the same spiritual mission. Let's go, let me see if there are any more questions. An hour has already passed. Soon they'll cut my time here. You watch Star Wars? So, there's Princess Leia, General Leia, right? What is my wife's name? Leia. Sometimes she's Princess Leia, sometimes she's General Leia, just like in Star Wars. Great Renato Leal, big hug, Renato. Let me see if there are any more questions. Yes, I was already commenting on the LGPD, you know, Emmanuel. I was already commenting on the LGPD before it was in effect. I added some more comments, including on civil liability, right? There was a greater dialogue between the CDC and the Civil Code during the pandemic. What I think, Anderson, is that actually what happened during the pandemic was a split in contract provisions. It was actually more of a separation than an interaction, right? Because Law 14.0 says that the Civil Code contract revision is different from the CDC revision. It was more of a distancing than a convergence, right?
Well, Professor Carlos Elias is here. I want to send a special hug to Brasilia here. A hug to Professor Carlos Elias.
Professor Carlos Elias, the president and future of civil law. I'm still going to write a book with him, you know? Did you hear that, Henderson? It's on the radar, you know?
Stay tuned for news, Flavio. We have good news with Professor Carlos Elias here.
Oh, it's not his book. I already know about a book of his that I will even write the preface for. But later on, we have the idea of doing a real estate book. I've already talked to him. He's a great asset. Including in Law 14.2010 of 2020, cited there by Senator Simone Tebet as a tireless advisor to the federal Senate in drafting this law. He had a role, in fact, he has had a decisive role in recent times in the drafting of laws, right? Law, the 13,000 law. The land regularization law, 13.465, if memory serves me right. And God willing, we will have a lot of work ahead of us, you know, Carlos?
Carlos, look, there is no lack of witnesses here. We have a huge volume of an audience here witnessing this promise here.
Government is asking if I am more coastal or a city dweller from Sao Paulo. Depends, Gomez. Sometimes I stay in Sao Paulo, sometimes I stay here in Guarulhos. It depends on the time. Since I'm losing my mind. With a small child, you know how it is. A hug to the UNISA students, the students and professors at UNISA. Yeah. Professor Leia Komar was also my doctoral colleague. A hug, Professor Leia. Roberto Correa speaking about the real estate law. I think the STJ will eventually reduce that 50% detention, right? So I think it will be reduced, you know, Roberto. That 50% fine, at least. Let's wait and see. There are already judges in the first and second instance saying that it is abusive. There was a question about medical malpractice there. Proving medical malpractice is very difficult because the CDC, not only the CDC points to subjective liability, the Civil Code also does, in Article 951. Evidence is usually provided through an expert assessment, right? Now that this story of this drug treatment, early treatment, will generate controversy, it will all depend on what science will say, right?
More than going after the doctor, I don't know if the big cases will go after the doctor. I think it is more in relation to the state itself because,
hey, Henderson, the victim prefers to sue the doctor. It's always been that way. Why? Because the doctor often has financial means and there is no line for court-ordered debt payments. The victim much prefers to file a lawsuit against the doctor. Then they get even more than the hospital in some cases.
which is interesting, right? Because you can go after one through strict liability, right?
Yeah. And I received a note from the Federal Council of Medicine washing its hands, right? Doctors have autonomy.
Right. I will not make public comments about this for a...
Yeah, it did the role it usually does. Washed its hands, right? Now imagine, doctrinally, I follow the rules of the Federal Council of Medicine, the assisted reproduction rule, for example, right? Then it washed its hands. So we'll have to check.
But in this case, you can, for example, go to the Brazilian Society of Infectious Diseases. They are speaking out about this regarding the omission of the CFM, which I cannot comment on.
They are. I've already seen. The president is Arnes, right? It's Dr. Arnes. I already read everything. I don't give technical opinions, but I read it for myself. I keep it to myself, you know? But I read these things. I read them in other languages too, but I'm not a doctor. If I keep giving opinions here, they'll think I'm arrogant from a scientific point of view. So I keep my opinion to myself.
Then you're committing that crime in the penal code of practicing medicine illegally, right? So it's better, right?
Yeah, so I think it's better not to get into that later.
Flavia, the folks here at Ginjured, our chat is wonderful, but the team here at Ginjured is telling me we're over time. We have to keep an eye on that.
And it's going to cut off.
It should cut off soon. So Flavio, I wanted to thank you once again for accepting the invitation for us to talk here openly, right, about our ideas for the group. I want to invite everyone to check out this year's editions by Professor Flavio. They are excellent. Follow us on the blog, genjuridico.com.br. There are texts by Professor Flavio, and all these discussions on various topics are published there. Subscribe to our newsletter. We put a lot of content in the newsletter. And we continue here in this constant dialogue of teaching and learning and building civil law for a better society here with our authors. And today here, this was our chat with Professor Flavio about the 2021 edition. A final word is, my dear friends, take care. The pandemic isn't over. Take care of your mental health and don't give up on dreams, on projects, because we have a society, a country to build and advance, not just after the pandemic. We need to help now. And the more you know, the more technical and deep you in legal science, the more you will contribute to the community you are part of. Flavio, final word to the group.
Thank you, my dear friends. And I'll post a coupon right now, okay? Thank you. God bless you. See you in the next live stream. Follow me here on Instagram. The video will be available. Thank you. God bless you.
Best wishes, everyone.